like to welcome you as we're going to be opening up for public masses. And we thought that it would be helpful for the people of our parish to get an idea of what it's going to be like as you come to church on Pentecost Sunday. That's on May 30th and 31st. So this is split up into little segments that follow from the very beginning as we gather here in church until the dismissal. And it will be in segments along the way. The entrance. As people are entering to church, they should be mindful of being 6 feet apart, that social distancing that is called for. And the doors will be open. We're asking that people not touch any of the door surfaces. We're going to have some people that will have gloves on, that will, in inclement weather, that they will be either holding the door or propping it open. But they will close it, they will open it, so we would ask that you do not touch any of those surfaces. So as people enter, if they feel that they need to use some hand sanitizers, we will have one of our greeters or ushers that will help them with the hand sanitizer. They are not to touch those either. Another person may already have used their hand sanitizer, and so they may not need to do that. So then there's 2 entrances that people will have, and the one is the main entrance, and the other is the garden lobby entrance. The other 2 doors that face the north will be closed. So there will only be 2 entrances, that at the main entrance and then also at the garden lobby entrance. The seating in church. Now, as families walk in, obviously they don't have to social distance from one another. So we have 2 sisters that are walking in together, and one is making a donation for the offering, because we will not be taking up an offering during Mass. So it could be placed in the offertory container either at the beginning of Mass or at the very end of Mass. And as they come in, they're going to be taking their seat to the right of a blue piece of tape that has an arrow that points to the right, and they're going to come to the middle because they're the first people to come to church this day, and they're going to be taking their seats. A single person now walks in who's not related, and in order to bring about the social distancing, she will need to be inside of the tape with the arrow, which she is going to take, and because they are now less than 6 feet away from one another, the sisters are going to move over to allow for that. There is a piece of tape that has a marking for every foot, and so a person will be able to determine that as a single person sits right around 3, that they have to take their seat right around 9. There is another piece of tape that's on the end. In order for 6 feet to be allowed as people are coming down the aisle, it will be quite a ways from the end of the seat, and it will point in the other direction towards the middle aisle, and people will have to sit in between those marked points. So that means that people are not at all at any place in the church to sit at the very end of the pew. The celebration of the Mass. You will notice that our sisters and the single person that walked in are still wearing masks, and they are to do so from the time that they leave their cars as they enter into church and take their seats throughout the whole celebration of the Mass. So we will continue to wear our masks. That means that as we celebrate the liturgy, we will do so with a minimal amount of singing, but of course, people can offer their full responses as they normally would to the spoken parts of the liturgy. The lector will come up and will actually remove their mask, either in their place or as they come up to lector. The priest also will not be wearing a mask at the very beginning of the liturgy, but the priest and deacon and Eucharistic ministers will be wearing a mask as they are distributing the Eucharist. Otherwise, the priest and the deacon, the lector, will not wear a mask for the celebration. You will recognize that we are not taking up a collection, so again, we remind you to place your offerings in the container that you will find both at the garden lobby and then also just inside of the church. We are also want people to recognize that we are not holding hands during the Our Father. There will not be any sign of peace during the celebration of the Mass. And now we're going to go to communion. For the communion procession, as people come out of their seats, except for the very first two rows, as people come out of their seats, they're going to find a marking in the middle aisle. And that's indicating 6 feet away from the people at the end of the pews and the person behind. So they should take their positions there, and as people vacate a position up in front where there are some other markers, as they vacate that, then they should come up and fill in that spot. So we're going to demonstrate how that will happen. People are going to receive communion as they take a spot in a semicircle, and the priest, deacon, or Eucharistic minister will keep moving from place to place as they give out communion. So we'll demonstrate that in just a moment. For the distribution of communion, the priest, the deacon, Eucharistic ministers will all be wearing masks. The ciborium that will be containing the host that will be consecrated during Mass will be over on the edge. The only thing that will be in front of the priest will be the bread that the body of Christ that he would consume. So for communion, then people are going to get up from their places, come to the middle aisle, and only an individual person will come in the middle. They shouldn't come 2 by 2. Only one person will come up at a time. And so as they come up for communion, we'll have our congregation do so. And again, one at a time, they will come up and then take a spot that is marked. And then we want to show you filling. Okay, so just go to the center. And then the priest and deacon will come by and they'll be giving out communion to people. Now, they should also have their mask down as they are given the body of Christ. So as the priest or deacon approaches, they can place their mask down, and they will then give the body of Christ to the individual person, the body of Christ. At which point they receive, and then they'll place their mask back on as the priest moves to the next person to say the body of Christ. Amen. At which point, whenever somebody vacates one of those positions, then somebody else that's in line can come and take their position, the body of Christ.
Amen.
And we remember that in reverence for the Eucharist, there is a slight vow that we make. There will not be a distribution of the cup, the blood of Christ, at any of the Masses. For the exiting from church, we are going to exit from the very back row first. And again, everybody wants to keep that social distance. So if you're an individual person, 6 foot from the other people. If you're a family, you can be together, but then 6 feet from other people as well. So you'll get up from your place and then exit. And so we'll pretend that everybody now has exited except for the very front row. They'll be the last to exit. So now as they get up and they'll keep a social distance from one another. If they have not given an offering, then they can do so as they exit. And we would ask people not to congregate in church, nor in the gathering space. So as they go forth, they're going to maintain their social distance. An usher with gloves on will give out the bulletin if people desire to receive the bulletin. And again, in this gathering area and also in the garden lobby, people are not to congregate at all. As they walk out of church, if they want to visit, keeping social distance again, they may do so, but they are not to congregate here at all. The priest and deacon may be out here at times greeting people, but we're going to keep our distance as we greet people either at the very beginning of Mass or at the end. But we are not going to mingle as we normally can. We can't do that given the fact that this virus is so contagious. So we want to keep our social distance, and we cannot congregate here in the gathering space or in the garden lobby. We will be very pleased to welcome everyone as they come, especially for the Feast of Pentecost. We want to remind you of a few things. And one is that we can only allow for a certain number of people to be in church. That's going to be about 180 to 200 people, depending. We're going to have to count people as they come into church, and at a certain point, we're going to have to indicate to people that the church is full at this time. And we would ask you charitably to wait until next week to come. Again, we're going to be inviting people to sign up, and once that reaches the capacity, there'll be an indication that already we can't accept anyone else. We're going to ask for your patience, and we're going to ask for your charity throughout. I know that wearing a mask is inconvenient, but you need to do that for the sake of other people, to protect them. So be charitable about that. And then we would also ask that you keep that social distancing throughout. Please be patient with us, because our ushers and our Eucharistic ministers, our lectors, our greeters are all going to have to get used to a new way of gathering. And so are you, and so we would ask for your patience. This is not going to be normal. It's something very different, but when people want to attend Mass, then we would ask you to abide by all of these guidelines. And then finally, we look forward to some of you being able to come. We would ask you also to recognize that if you're not able to be present, that we will be taping or live streaming our Masses for you so that you can catch that on Saturday evening or on Sunday. And then finally, we love this parish. It's a very good parish. We would love to be able to come back together as we normally do, but in this pandemic, we recognize that we cannot. So once again, we ask for your patience and also for your charity throughout. Thank you.